Good morning, dear students, and welcome back to the English online classes. And I hope that you people have surely watched the videos related to this chapter, Chapter 5 Should Wizard Hit Mommy by John Updike. This chapter is really an interesting one because it renders beautiful morals to the people who read it. Now, in this chapter, we have seen till now that, as was informed by me earlier, that the morals being imparted is the parents-child relationship. Then the most important thing is not to lose one's own identity, and another important thing is decisions of parents important for children or not. Continuing with the chapter, let us have a quick recall of what we people have done in the previous videos. In short, if we will say, the story is about Jo, a 4-year-old girl who is having the habit of listening to the stories narrated by her father, Jack, in the evenings and for Saturday naps. Generally, Jack creates his own story but with a basic plotline. What I mean to say is that all the stories that he narrated to his daughter Jo all these years is actually being created by him, but they used to have the same characters like Roger the creator, whose situation and problems are always different, and wise old owl will be there who will show him the way to the wizard. Wizard, who is a magician, will solve his problem with his magic and will ask money in return, pennies, which will always be less with Roger, and Roger will be shown the way to get the rest of the pennies by the wizard himself. And after doing all these things, Roger will go back to his friends, where he will be very happy playing with them. Then in the evening, when the evening befalls, he will go back to his mother, wait for his father to come back from Boston. They will have their supper and the story gets over. Jack was feeling that nowadays telling the story or narrating the story seems to be a little tiresome, because Jo was no longer a baby. She was 4-year-old, full of cushions in her brain, and very rarely she used to go to sleep. But still, she always used to be excited to listen to the story which her father used to narrate to her. And because of that reason, he used to feel that this custom seems to be interesting. His other child, Bobby, who was 2 years old with the milk bottle, was already asleep. And then Jack asked Jo whose story she wanted to listen to. As I told you, the creature was fixed, that is Roger. Only the surname used to change, and the surname was always decided by Jo. So this time she decided it should be Roger's Skun. Skun is a kind of an American animal, and maybe she might have heard about it in her school, in her nursery classes. And then Jack, he was also excited that he got a new creature to speak about, and then he started the story in which he created that Roger's Skun was a creature from the woodland who used to smell very bad. So now this time Roger's Skun's problem was bad smell, the foul smell. And because of this foul smell, nobody liked to play with him. They used to run away, and Roger used to be left alone with tears rolling down his eyes, which could be felt at the corner of Jo's eyes, which shows us that how intently she used to listen to the story, living the character. But as she knew that what will be the next step, in between she always used to come up with those characters or otherwise those part of the story. So she asked for the owl. Her father asked her to lay down quietly, and then he continued the story that Roger moved and he reached near the tree top where the owl was sitting down, and owl also agreed that Roger was smelling very bad, and because of that reason he directed him towards the wizard. In between, Jo interrupted, showed her excitement. Jack scolded her and made her to lay back on the bed, and then he continued with the story. In between, Jo again came up with some cushions, which was her new habit, because she was a growing child. She had a lot of cushions in her brain to shoot up to her father and her mother. So she asked questions, and then he overlooked some of the questions. He ignored actually, and he continued with his story because he had to go down. His wife, who was 6 months pregnant, was actually doing certain furniture work, and furniture work in the sense that painting the furnitures. But he wanted to go and help her, and so that's why he was in a hurry to wind up the story. So he continued the story, and he said that Roger, he moved further, and further when he moved, he just reached near, according to the instructions of the owl, near a little white house where he rapped the door, which was opened by this magician wizard who was a dwarf with long beard and all those things. And Jack, he imitated, or you can say that he created a voice by grimacing his face and scrunching up his face or winning his eyes so that he can give the effect of an old man. And it was his favorite character too. And Roger, he was asked by the wizard that what he wants him to do. He said that I want my problem to be solved. And the wizard called him inside, and he said that okay, I'll solve your problem, but you maintain a distance from me because you smell awful. And then from his magical heap, he took out one magic wand, about which I have already told you in the previous videos, that exactly like how Harry Potter magical wand. And then he asked him that how you want to smell like, and Roger thought and thought and thought. After a lot of thinking, he said that I want to smell like that of roses. And our wizard, he chanted the magical spell, and after a few seconds, the entire room smelled of that of roses. Our Jo was very happy. She had shown that happiness with lots of expressions, as been mentioned in the book, and it seemed like some was little being made up one type of expressions. And then after that, the wizard asked for the pennies, the money, which was as usual was less with Roger, and then he was directed by the wizard how to get the rest of the pennies. He got it, and happily he went back to the woodland to play with the creatures. The other creatures were very happy that Roger was smelling like that of roses. And then after playing lots of games, as been mentioned in the book, like baseball, football, basketball, and whatnot, he went back home. As the evening befalls, he went back home, and there the story was going to end, and Jo started losing interest because she knew that what it would be ending up with a mother and son waiting for father to come back from Boston, having supper and sleeping. And this is what Jack didn't like. He was annoyed because he wanted that she should pay attention. He don't like ladies taking him for granted. He wants them to pay attention to whatever he says. And then when this happened, after that, the interesting part was coming up now. He said to Jo, listen to the story. When Roger reached home, mother, she said that what is this awful smell? Now here, see students, he was smelling like that of roses. According to us, rose smells beautiful. And here, mother was saying, what is the smell? To that Rogers, he said that it's me, I'm smelling like that of roses. Then she asked, who made you do smell like this? Then he said, the wizard. And then this made Mommy very angry, and she said that come with me. Let's go back to that awful wizard. Now, this was a joke for Jo. She sat up. She never expected the story to have such kind of a twist. And then she was genuinely moving her hands, dabbling it up in the air, because she never wanted something very unexpected to happen to the hero of the story, and obviously to her story. Then she said to her father that, why he's not telling that the other animals, they run away, they don't want to play. Then Daddy, he said that okay, and as Roger, he continued the story that Roger said to his mommy that other animals, they ran away. To that, you see what his mother said. His mother said that, see, you smell exactly like that of skunk, and I'm going to take you back to the wizard. And she did take him back. Not only she went with Roger, but she took an umbrella also along with her. And after going back to that wizard's house, she hit the wizard very hard on his head. Now here, why the mommy's skun? She said that you smell exactly like that of skun, because this is a identity, or you can say that this is the feature of the skuns, that whenever the enemies or any attackers are there, the smell of the skun, this awful smell of the skun, keeps them far away from the skun, and they stay safe in that sense. Now, in the last video, I said that you just wait eagerly that what happened next. And now, when the mommy skun went and hit the wizard on the head, that was too much for Jo. She screamed and she said no, and she put her hand out to touch his lips. Yet, even in her agitation, did not quite dare to stop the source of truth. Inspiration came to her. Then the wizard hit her on the head and did not change that little skun back. Children are children. We always want everything to be very good. If you remember, in the first video, I said the world of adults and that of child is totally different. Adults' world is full of reality, the harsh realities of life. And that of a child is full of imagination. It's a fairy tale, illusions, good happenings. This you too might have done in your childhood, when you are sitting down with some people and your mother or father starts speaking about you and you don't want them to speak about that. Then what you used to do? You used to keep your hand over their mouth, like as if you are going to close their mouth and nothing will ever happen. Nothing will be said by your parents about you. The same thing Jo also thought, and she closed the mouth, the lips. She covered the lips of her father with her hand, thinking that that will stop the truth. And she said to her father with lot of expectation that when mother hit the wizard over the head with umbrella, the wizard also might have hit her, no? And he didn't change anything. Roger still smells of roses. To that, no, he said. The wizard said, okay. And Roger's skun did not smell of roses anymore. He smelled very bad again. But the other little Ammon, Joanne, it's Daddy's story. Shall Daddy not tell you any more stories? Her broad face looked at him through sifted light, astounded. This is what happened. Then Roger, Skun and his mommy went home and they heard woo 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 woo, and it was the choo-choo train bringing Daddy Skun home from Boston. And they had lima beans, celery, liver, mashed potatoes, and pie oh my for dessert. And when Roger Skun was in bed, Mommy Skun came up and hugged him and said he smelled like her little baby Skun again, and she loved him very much. And that's the end of the story. Okay, so this is the twist in the story, very hard for Jo to digest. We generally expect a happy ending, in which everything is very happy, very good. And here Jo also expected the same. So that's why she said to her father that the wizard hit her back on the head and did not change little Skun back. To that, her father said no. The wizard said, okay, and Roger's skin did not smell of roses anymore. Means wizard changed him back into a bad smelling Skun. Then she said, what about the other little animals? Amu means animals over here. So father said, Joanne, actually Jo's name is Joanne. And he said, it is Dad's story. I'm telling you the story. You don't want Dad to tell you any further stories? So listen to the story. But she was totally shocked. And he continued the story that after Roger's Skun was changed back into a bad smelling animal, he came back home with his mommy, who waited for the train to come back, bringing Daddy home. Then they had a nice supper of beans, celery, liver, mashed potatoes, and for dessert, means for sweet, they had pie. Then when it was time for them to sleep, at that time, the mother, the mommy Skun, she came up to her son and she hugged him lovingly and she said, now you smell like my little baby and I love you a lot. And then the story came to an end. But daddy, what? Then did the other little animals run away? No, because eventually they got used to the way he was and did not mind it at all. What's eventuality? Then now, this end of the story was, as I said, a little hard for her to digest. So she asked up another question. The daddy, then he asked what? What about the other animals who used to run away whenever Roger used to come? So he said that eventually means in the long run, by the end, they got used to that smell and they did not mind it any longer. This little girl Jo, she's having a little problem with regard to the pronunciation. So she said that what is eventuality? Actually, she means eventually. So he said to her, it means in a little while. Then she continued, that was a stupid mommy. Now you will feel that how come this girl is calling that mommy's cunt stupid? Because she didn't like the end of the story. She expected everything to be very good. And then when she said so, what was the reaction of the father? That is what we people have to see. And in the next video, we will be seeing the ending part with discussion of the questions and the answers of this chapter. Till then, goodbye.